Yes. Okay.
What if they play Dixie?
Come on, single file against the wall. Single file.
Yeah, you gotta see it.
Kendine böyle bir şehirdesin, böyle...
No, mira para acá.
Esther. Oye, está ahí Magati ahorita. Sen burada graduasyonu olacaksın. Burası güzel, burası en büyük doktorların mektebi.
No, you don't have the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk. Puedes hablar, Gloria. Estamos contentos, encantados de estar aquí en la graduación de Luis, cosa que anhelábamos de hace años, y años, ¿sabes? Sí, tiene la voz, se puede oír, Gloria.
Yo me siento muy feliz
Happy
de
to
estar
be in Luis' graduation.
en la graduación de Luis con mi amigo Magat.
¿Sabes? Claro, siempre, toda la vida, no hay que olvidarlo.
Şimdi sen konuş, tú habla y tú puedes...
Sí, ahí se está el micrófono ahí.
Then we'll do them $30. Where are you going to be, Jimmy? She's going to get us going.
I haven't talked to my agent.
I'm very happy today to have at my graduation. I feel like I graduated myself. Graduate check.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Chris.
I don't think what I'd like to do is get some videotape on that Gilbert and Pinter right on that. You can keep saying, these are these lovely friends of yours.
Oh no, that's true. That's true. Oh, you didn't know that's true. That was true. Yeah, that's right. I did play on that.
It is a little surprising.
Get out the way, please. There's got a couple.
Bailey. Stay right there. That's where...
Dave, we're tested on this stuff. We gotta know this.
Chair on. Yay, Marv!
I want you to pray with me, but I want you to pray with your eyes open. Prayer is joining our hearts and minds and bodies to the great purposes of creation. Prayer is saying yes to life and no to death, yes to health and no to sickness. Prayer is consciously linking ourselves with the divine energy that lives in the depths of our being and at the center of the universe. God, we thank you today that by your grace we have done the nearly impossible. We have learned something. We have learned that truth must be our authority, not some authority, our truth. And that truth must serve goodness, for if we fail in love, we fail in everything. We have learned that there is a world of difference between small people who are very clever and great people who are very wise. And that wisdom is not automatically a university product. We have learned that we need your spirit of truth, God, in the deepest places within us, if we are to continue to engage in great learning. For you keep us eager to pursue truth wherever it leads. You make us scornful of the cowardice that fears to face new truth. of the laziness that is content with half-truth, of the arrogance that thinks it knows all truth. We have learned that if we are to create an authentic, caring human community in this threatened planet, we need open minds, gentle spirits, and compassionate hearts. Now God grant us the power to match thoughtful inquiry with effective action. Graduate us into the ranks of those who pray and long and struggle for a new and beautiful and healthy world, fit for humans and all living things. Send us forth from USC Medical School to have a lover's quarrel with the world. Give us grace, God, to quarrel with a world that spends $900 billion a year on military arms of destruction as people are sick and suffering and hungry all over the world. Give us grace to quarrel with a nation that prefers to condemn communism rather than to create a world of justice, human well-being. To quarrel with a city that would arrest and jail the homeless rather than to create homes and dignity for all. Not but could be. This is my prayer for you this day. And if that's what you want in your life, you will join me in saying amen, amen.
Indicate that a few days ago, Associate Dean Nerlich and I were discussing what we would do if it rained today. Let me invite all of you who haven't already done so, except the graduates, to feel free to remove your coats and loosen your ties because it's going to be warm. Let me take a moment at this point to welcome our special guests. Dr. John W. House is the president of the USC School of Medicine Alumni Association. John, thank you. Dr. Joy G. Kaufman is the president of the USC School of Medicine Medical Faculty Assembly. Dr. Kaufman. Dr. Edward Mike Graney is the president of Salerno Collegium. Mike. This is a day, a happy day, when we recognize the achievements of our student colleagues. They have found their way from their undergraduate experiences through the rigors and trials of the full medical curriculum. They have worked hard, they've mastered their anatomy and their biochemistry and their pathology.
Thank you, Dean Tranquillata. On behalf of President Zumberg and Provost Pings, I'd like to welcome you all to the 102nd ceremony for the School of Medicine. Those of you may have heard the economists say that the economy has shifted from Europe to the Pacific Rim, and the University of Southern California proposes to be one of the leading universities in that new economy on the Pacific Rim. And with that in mind, Dr. Zumberg and Pings are now in Japan trying to further that purpose. Otherwise, they'd be happy to be with you here today. I don't think that there are many medical students who have had three separate deans. You had one dean who admitted you, you had another dean who supervised your curriculum for the junior year, and you have another dean who's graduating you. And despite that all, you've survived and prospered, which may say something for administration. But I think now that we have Bob Tranquillata in place, we won't have to worry about any changes for the next 10 or 15 years at least. But I think that he will be starting us in a new direction. This is a big day for you, but it's also a big week for us here at USC, because on Wednesday we will have the groundbreaking for the new USC NME University Hospital. We've also acquired land so that we can develop a new molecular biology building and a new neurosciences building, so that when you come back 3 or 4 years from now after you've finished your residencies, you're going to see a campus that's 2 or 3 times what you currently see. And I think that you can look forward to being very proud of your university of the future. And we, in turn, are sure that we'll be very proud of what you're going to accomplish in the future as well.
Not surprisingly, the author of 20 books, including The Anatomy of an Illness, The Healing Heart, Human Options, The Physician in Literature, and most recently, The Human Adventure and Pathology of Power. Mr. Cousins holds honorary degrees from 53 colleges and universities, including an honorary degree in medicine jointly awarded by Yale University and the Connecticut Medical Association, which I'm pleased to see he's wearing today. He is the recipient of numerous awards, including the United Nations Peace Medal, the American Peace Award, the Gold Medal for Literature Award of the National Arts Club, the Award of the Government of Canada for Service to the Environment, the Family of Man Award, the Commonwealth Award, Humanitarian of the Year Award, the City of Hiroshima Award for carrying out various programs of medical rehabilitation for victims of the bombing, the Eleanor Roosevelt Peace Award, and many, many others. Mr. Cousins is president of the World Federalist Association of the United States. He has carried out diplomatic missions for Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson.
Gentlemen of Part1, distinguished members of the faculty, parents, friends, graduates. I am deeply honored to be here, and I must say that there's something about a commencement exercise that makes me think of the woman who brought her clothes down to the washing machine in the basement of her home. She was attired only in her nightgown, and as she's putting her clothes into the washing machine, it occurred to her that she might put a nightgown in as well, which she did. And then she felt a dripping from a pipe fastened to the ceiling. She looked around and saw the football helmet of her son. She reached out, put the football helmet on, and resumed the washing. At which point, the man who read the gas meter walked into the basement, looked out and said, "Lady, I don't know what game you're playing, but I sure hope you win."
The neat little numbers, technology was in place, everything in fact was in place. But just ahead of you, there's a world of uncertainties. And I'd like, if I may, to talk about those uncertainties and intangibles, because these intangibles, I think, may dominate the environment in which you're going to have to practice and perform. Perhaps one of the greatest uncertainties will have to do with your relationships with patients. You see, the main challenge, I suspect, the main need in healthcare in America today is not just for cures and more facilities. The main need in healthcare today is to re-educate patients.
Mouth resuscitation. All I ask is that if it should happen to me, that I be allowed to designate the person who's going to give it to me. If a man has a heart attack at home, one of the first things that's apt to happen is that his wife will start to scream. You get the reverberation of a panic. And then when the paramedics arrive, a lot of them take their Canadian mounted image seriously. When you arrive at the hospital, the first sign you see is emergency. The most important thing to do with any patient is to reassure the patient. The most important thing that is within the reach of laymen to do is to reassure. Certainly they're much more qualified, or could be more qualified to do that, better able to do that, than to administer these procedures. But as I say, we tend to educate people on the downside. We tend to push them in the direction of panic. And so as I say, I think that your greatest challenge may be to re-educate people. To re-educate them about the fact that not every pain is a sign of disease, and that if they have a cold, they will not die within the hour. It's important to re-educate them about the about the magnificent resources that lie within the human body.
On behalf of the class, Jeffrey E. Frank and Keely E. Miller. Jeff Frank, we'll hear from first. Jeff.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank my classmates for allowing me to speak at our graduations. Some of you are probably thinking that I'm going to talk about nuclear disarmament, saving the whales, or even socialization of medicine with free health care for all. No, I'm going to talk about some of the more memorable moments we have shared these last 4 years, and hope to demonstrate to everybody that there is something special between us. Many of us have lived together as roommates. A handful of us have fallen in love since being in medical school and are now married or cohabitating. But above all, we have all laughed together. Our laughter has been our strongest ally through the trials and tribulations of our education here at USC. Mark Twain emphasizes this point through the character of Satan in his last novel, The Mysterious Stranger. He writes, "For your race, in its poverty, has unquestionably one really effective weapon, laughter. Power, money, persuasion, supplication, persecution. These can lift the colossal humbug, push it little by little, century by century. But only laughter can blow it to rags and atoms at a single blast. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. As a group, we were able to support each other with generous amounts of humor and laughter. For example, at the end of our first week of classes, we were nervous and excited as we bravely approached our cadavers in anatomy. But afterwards, we tasted the laughter and life in medical school with our first of many keg parties here in the quad. Together, we developed, shall I say, a passionate distaste for microscopes and Kodachromes as we studied the rigors of microanatomy and pathology in small but very loud and boisterous groups. We gave a mighty big hurrah for our very own USC intramural basketball champions. And it was I who attempted to demonstrate to your enjoyment and to Dr. Feinstein's chagrin another way to pronounce the word plattily. We must be humble as physicians. We must treat our patients with care and concern. We must listen to them. We must treat them without judging them. Mahatma Gandhi put it another way. Imperfect ourselves, we must be tender toward others. Thank you.
As we, the class of 1987, began our medical education in September of 1983, I think we all approached this new venture with a certain amount of fear and trepidation about what the next 4 years would bring. We had all worked hard to gain admission to medical school, straining not only our own capabilities, but also trying the patience and forbearance of our families, loved ones, friends. Just as we had attained this prized goal, ahead lay the prospect of another 4 difficult years of education. It was rather like winning back the America's Cup, only to have to turn to the crew and say, we've got to do it all over again. However, this new race was quite different from the one we had just completed. Back then, my medical education before me seemed like a long, dark tunnel with no light at the end yet visible. In my mind, medical school consisted of a long list of hurdles I would have to scale over the next 4 years. They stretched out in a seemingly endless obstacle course of perils, including biochemistry, microanatomy, gross anatomy with its actual dissection of dead bodies, pathology, microbiology, touching patients, asking patients explicit questions, drawing blood and starting IVs in a world where not even the shadow knows where the AIDS virus lurks. Being pimped on call right after call, only for having to sleep, and having to retract hours on end without damaging the liver in the slightest. Then, how medical education would gradually edge me along the path of evolving into a physician. That every new fact and every arduous tribulation would mold each of us into individuals who now think and act and reason as physicians do. So that even though in some ways we each feel we're basically the same old folks we were when we entered medical school, If we reflect, and we add in the reflections of our loved ones, friends, faculty, and patients, we can appreciate that we've all fundamentally changed under the influence of the steady march of time and the relentless pounding of 4 brutal years of hard work. So we're entirely different human beings than we used to be. What of it? Well, those of us graduates present here today just didn't sit around the house watching the soaps, waiting for the diploma to arrive in the mail one day. Our significant others, our friends, our pets. Hopefully they've kept us human over these years and tried to be understanding when we've missed or snoozed through special occasions, spoken in endless medical jargon without translation, or we admired the dinner table conversation by talking about bodily functions. Hopefully these significant people are now a hardy breed, as they'll need to be to weather it through internship and residence with us. And finally, I'd like to thank the members of the class of 1987 for not being the collection of obnoxious cutthroat Poindexters I was expecting when I entered medical school. We're a diverse group of people with far-reaching talents, interests, and beliefs. In keeping each other alive and surviving through county, we've gained a camaraderie that develops in the trenches. I guess that's why one doesn't study medicine by mail, although several classmates study the basic sciences of it.
Those who have served their class well are the class presidents, Grant Uva and Rebecca Townsend. It is a pleasure to introduce them for the purpose of presenting the Kaiser Teaching Awards to the faculty recipients selected by the class. Grant and Rebecca.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the USC School of Medicine, class of 1987, Becky and I are privileged to announce the recipients of the Kaiser Excellence in Teaching Award. 2 faculty members, 1 preclinical and 1 clinical, were selected by class vote based on their exceptional dedication and commitment to our medical education. For his kindness and concern, as well as his excellent and enthusiastic teaching during the preclinical years, it is my honor to present this award to Dr. David A. Berman, Professor of Pharmacology and Nutrition, and member of the USC faculty since 1951.
Of the Kaiser Excellence in Teaching Award for Clinical Teaching is Dr. Telfer C. Reynolds. Dr. Reynolds is a professor of medicine in the Department of Internal Medicine and holds the Clayton Loosely Chair of the Hastings Foundation. He has been a faculty member at the USC School of Medicine since 1950.
Good teaching is the most precious commodity we have in this school. Congratulations to those award winners. It has become customary to present the Hoffman Service Award for outstanding service to the medical school on these occasions. The recipient of this year's Elaine Steveley Hoffman Medical Achievement Award is Mr. Henry Gonzalez. Henry, would you join me up here, please? Henry Gonzalez is in his 31st year of service in 1956 in the Department of Pathology. In 1962, he transferred to the Department of Neurology, where he worked with Dr. Finley Russell. There he gained an expertise with venomology, which is still put to use as he is a consultant for the Poison Control Center, where he is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In 1981, Mr. Gonzalez moved to the Dean's Office as Director of Space and Facilities. His current assignment involves school-wide renovation planning, academic and administrative relocations, space development, and laboratory safety. In each of his assignments, Mr. Gonzalez has become known to us all as an accomplished professional dedicated to the interests of the School of Medicine, who contributes very substantially more to his assignments than his job description would indicate. Henry's good citizenship extends well beyond the confines of the campus. He works with handicapped children at the Delhaven Community Center and provides major volunteer services to the Friends of Foster Children of San Gabriel Valley, the Hispanic Adoption Agency, and the Black Adoption Agency. For his many achievements, it is a pleasure to present him with the 1987 Elaine Steveley Hoffman Award. Congratulations. It is also fitting on this occasion to take notice of the contributions to the School of Medicine of three men who are retiring as chairmen of departments in the medical school. Dr. Paul Worley, who began his stewardship of the Department of Pediatrics at the LA County USC School of Medicine in LA County USC Medical Center in 1961, will retire at the end of June from that responsibility after 26 years as chairman. He is fully responsible for the development of a modern Department of Pediatrics at the Medical Center and for its growth to its present size and stature. I would ask him to stand now so that we can recognize him. Chairman of the Department of Pediatrics at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles in 1969. Dr. Donnell actually retired from that chair a year ago, but it was not possible to honor him last year. His leadership is evidenced in many ways at the Children's Hospital, where much of the modern development of full-time faculty is owed to his leadership. He's made many contributions here in the School of Medicine as well, and I would like to ask Dr. Donnell to stand and be recognized. George. Dr. John E. Bethune began his stewardship of the Department of Medicine in our medical school in 1972. Jack has been responsible for, as nearly as I can tell, the appointment of all but one of the current division chiefs in medicine, and has seen the number of full-time members of the Department of Medicine virtually double during his 15 years as chair. Giants among our faculty, and we're certainly going to miss them in their accustomed roles, although we know that we'll be able to see them in professorial roles in the future. We now have an opportunity to recognize those members of the class of 1987 who have made special achievements. We honor each member of this class for their achievements during the past 4 years. Some have achieved special distinction, and we are privileged to recognize those at this time. As I call your names, will you please stand and remain standing until I have finished each segment of the recognition, and I'd ask our audience to withhold their applause until we've introduced each group. The Alpha Omega Alpha National Honor Society eligibility is based upon both academic performance. 26 who have been selected out of a class size of 155. Janice Guthrie Blair. Lawrence David Dickinson Jr. Richard Samuel DeLotte. James Andrew East.